This video is sponsored by SKILLSHARE. SKILLSHARE is an online learning community with more than 25,000 classes in design, business, and more. With a premium membership, you will get unlimited access to all of those learning classes. Check out these two amazing SKILLSHARE courses on Photoshop, Essentials, and Advanced Training by an Adobe certified trainer, Daniel Scott.
We'll start by learning all the best selection techniques available. I promise by the end of this first section, what took you 30 minutes to mask will take you 30 seconds. Type nerdy, font pairing with Typekit, plus variable, open type, and similar fonts. It's typetastic. It's a word.
I would highly suggest SKILLSHARE as the annual subscription is less than $10 a month. You can also use the link in the description to get a 2-month free trial. Without a doubt, just try SKILLSHARE, and if you don't like it, you can cancel at any time. Today's video is all about text fonts for architectural presentation boards. First, let's talk about text size. I would suggest using font sizes to create hierarchy on the board. For example, large fonts for your title, a bit smaller for subtitles, and a standard size for the remainder of your content. Same can be applied to text boxes. Keep in mind though that not all text should be readable from a far distance. Body text, for example, will require the viewer to come slightly closer to read, and that is okay. 2 tricks to figure out the best size for your boards is to measure how tall the text is in centimeter in Photoshop, and that gives you an idea of how big it is in real life. You can also print a poster in an A3 sample and see if it's still readable. Next thing is typefaces. The regular version is the standard version. Italic is the best suited to emphasize key points in text, citation, quotes, book titles, or maybe foreign words from a different language, etc. Bold text gives the word weight, so it is best suited to highlight keywords that are important to the subject of text, so it's easy to scan the text. But it's important to remember to not overdo with the typefaces because the text can seem overly complicated and you don't really know which is important, which isn't, and you're not able to scan the text. For color, you need to think about how color is represented in your concept and how it fits your story. You can also use the eyedropper to pick colors from your main image. I personally always go with a black text, it's just simple. Sometimes I like to go with a darker gray so it looks softer and not very harsh. Here is a lovely Helvetica poster from the 50s where you can see the designer using a grid. So we create a grid to have a system that allows objects on the page to be anchored to one another. It also creates a mix of uniformity, variety, and a structured typography. Alignment is at the core of how we place text on our board, and every alignment has its own character to it. So centered alignment is very formal, symmetrical, and almost static. Justified is extremely economical alignment as it saves space and it makes a wonderful solid block. Flush left is an organic alignment as you have the hard edge on the left side and a soft edge on the right side. Flush right is unusual because where you usually read is organic and soft, and then the other side is hard. It is unusual, but definitely dynamic and might work in some cases. So let's look at a few examples. Here's one example where the text and visuals are just floating around towards the edge of the board, and that is a horrible alignment. The elements are not anchored to anything and there's no structure. Here is a centered alignment where you have all of the elements centered, which is pretty boring layout as it might be the first one many will come up with. Here's another layout that you can see has a structure and a much more beautiful and successful layout because the structure comes from the content and not the borders. Now you can take everything I just said and throw it out the window because alignment can be an expressive form and you can really get creative with alignment. Here are a few examples where the designer didn't use the traditional alignment and instead created a more dynamic and interesting text. But be wary if you use this kind of approach as you really have to nail it. I can't say that right. is Helvetica. It's kind of an obvious one, but Helvetica will rarely let you down when you're pushed for time or struggling to discover the ideal situation. Because of its minimalist and straight line appearance, this is a go-to. However, one thing to keep in mind is that in small sizes, the tight spacing could pose a problem of legibility. So this is where printing an A3 sample could come in handy. The next one is Franklin Gothic. This one has a more personality than the other sans serif fonts and performs best when accompanying a more subtle and delicate font, either forming titles or subtitles. Then 1451 uses all of the principles of the Bauhaus and as a result has not dated in any way. It has a strong characteristics that makes it perfect for architectural use. The first is it's condensed in nature. That means the font creates a strong form when used as text in paragraphs. This results in the type becoming more of a shape on the page and presentation boards. You can also adjust the spacing if you want it more open and light. Futura. This font is a favorite for architects with its classic modern design, similar to DIN 1451. This is inspired by Bauhaus techniques and uses straight lines and curves that provide balance when used in short paragraph grouping. It is best, however, to avoid using this font for long text as it can appear overpowering and visually distract. Nutura, graphic designer Christian Schwartz created this font in honor of the world-renowned modernist architect Richard Nutra, making it a very popular and highly used typeface in the works of architecture and design, and as a result, a competitor for Futura. Lato, it is released in 2015, so it's practically a new font. It is thought to be used on more than 9.6 million websites and is the third most served font on Google Fonts, with over 1 billion views per day. Bebas New, this is a personal favorite of mine for titles, and I use it for titles on my videos actually. It is a condensed text, so sometimes I do like to adjust the spacing for it to look more open and light. When you are visiting a website or you saw a font on Instagram or a presentation board or any printed material, you might spot a font that you like and you would like to use. All you need to do is take a screenshot of that font and head on over to What the Font. Upload the image and it will tell you what font it is and link similar fonts for you to purchase. There is also an even simpler tool to identify text and fonts, which is an extension called Firefox Ninja. After you install the extension, you can then hover over any text and it will show you the font's name and size and information. Don't be afraid to combine two fonts, as this is a very normal process. These are just a few ways on how you can have a good contrast between fonts. These are just a few combinations to experiment with in your layouts. Font can be expensive, so it's always a good idea to try out the font before you actually purchase. Check out this amazing website. It lets you try out the fonts. Some fonts are not available for online tryouts. I'm not sure why, and how come all of the fonts I'm trying, they all look the same. There we go. That's a different one, so we know it's working. I can't believe I found this site. It's super amazing. I personally don't like to experiment with fonts, so I like to keep it minimal. So I usually stick to certain fonts. These fonts are neutral, basic, and will practically work with most projects. These include Helvetica, Futura, Century Gothic, Times New Roman, Calibri, and last but not least, Bebas New. So at the end of the videos, I thought I'd do something a bit more different and more personal. So at the end of every video, I'm gonna have a secret show and then I answer a few of your questions. These can be personal, these can be architectural. You go for it. So the question that we have today is by Sierra Wong, and she's asking, if I sketch a building, do I consider the floor plan first or the exterior? Also, I saw your architecture portfolio preparation video and I thought it was helpful. Thank you. I noticed that you had 2 years study when curating that portfolio, so I wanted to ask if you had any advice for someone with no university experience whatsoever when curating an effective portfolio. So the first question, briefly, it all depends on the type of project. So for example, I had a zero carbon project which I'll have linked in the cards for you. I think in the sketchbook video, you'll kind of understand the brief. Currently, I do have kind of the functionality of the plans and stuff, and that was essential for it to be zero carbon because we had to make a self-built kit. And the form came out as a result rectilinear, pretty boring, in my opinion, just personally. So right now, what I'm doing is I'm trying to come up with different form ideas or concepts on how I can make these modular units be more sculptural and artistic. So that's for that project where I started on the plan and functionality first, and then I looked at the form. And now I'm doing another project, a performance art school with a theater. The site, as you can see, it's pretty small. I can demolish all of that part, but these two buildings are listed, so I'm pretty constrained. The street behind this, it's kind of a service lane. It's more about trucks and delivery, so it's not where visitors are coming from. And these two buildings are pretty high, like there are 3 floors and each floor is double heighted, so you can imagine how high these buildings are. So that means that literally the visitors or people can't actually see my building until they're flying on magic carpets. I can demolish that corner, so that gives me some kind of space or room to play around with form. So that one, I'm starting with kind of a simple plan arrangement, I'd say, mainly form and how the new part interacts with the old part. Now, a third example would be if you had a completely new build project, then I would start with form, but still think about plan and how that translates and how it works, because sometimes it doesn't, unfortunately. So I'd say you'd work on 2 together at the same time. So I hope that answered your question. For the other question about architectural portfolio preparation, I think the main tip I would give for someone with no university experience whatsoever is to showcase your personality. So any hobbies, arts and drawing, any paintings you've done, any sculptural work, any competitions, any photography, anything that can be translated into art, that is amazing and that you should add. And I wish you all of the best. I hope I answered your questions. And yeah, if you want to be featured in my next, surviving secret show, is only special to the people that actually watch till the end of my videos. I love you guys so much. I hope you had wonderful holidays, and I hope you have a happy new year. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and let me know in the comments if you have any font and text questions. Also, do you have another good font suggestion not mentioned today? I hope you are all doing very well. I am Rasha Shururu, and I will see you next time.